Alright everyone, we've been working away since you've seen us last. We've actually started laying stuff out. We've been gathering up bits of terrain.
Yeah, building the Imperial Base.
Which is looking good. Have a quick look at it. This is kind of what we're thinking at the minute. This is kind of the main objective, but we thought it'd be a bit boring to have a whole game around blowing up one building. So it's kind of sprawled out into a bit of quite a large encampment.
Using lots of different terrain as well from a couple of different manufacturers.
Yeah, so like in the first video when Warren was saying there's an alternative base on the other side of Endor, we took that idea and go, yes, it must be an absolute, a fully fleshed out base that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So we've been gathering up bits and pieces, Warren. Do you want to
so
jump into what we've gathered up?
it was really a case of let's dig through our boxes of resin and stuff like that to see what they have. First up, we have this stuff here, which is actually built for X-Wing. It's a Gale Force 9 product. Battlefield in a box. It's the space station lasers. So we had a couple of those here in the studio and we wanted to put them in. Reason is, on the approach, whatever way we decide the approach, we have a couple of big kind of defensive laser turrets laying down firepower into whatever is coming in on the approach.
So we've got one here at the minute.
Yep.
And we have another one over here. And Warren's working up some sort of strange connection between this and an AT at the minute.
Yeah, well, At-Ats need to get their personnel from somewhere, or they need to drop their personnel off in some way, so I'm just working that up. I'll come to my kind of turbo shafts and stuff like that in a minute.
And then, yes, the last
You also get this, we're calling it the nipple cannon.
Yeah, I believe these are ion cannons.
Ion cannons. So we've got a couple of ion cannons. We just haven't worked out where we're going to place the other one yet. So it might go there. I'm not sure what just yet. So that's the Battlefield in a box stuff. Next up, we need a generator. Okay, so this is our power generator. And it's actually a generator from Secret Weapon. But if you can get a couple of them, you can put them together. And it actually makes a perfect X-Wing scaled power generator.
Yep. And
very pleased with that.
Since the generator in Empire Strikes Back looked a bit like that, you're looking at it going, well, that's Star Wars technology. Why would our generator on Endor look particularly different?
On the topic of generators, there's also a company called Quantum Gothic, who I can't recommend enough. They do beautiful, beautiful terrain pieces. And they actually do this. If you pass me the middle bit, Lloyd. And this is actually a generator. So what it is its parts come like that. So when you're doing it as a Gothic generator for your 40K, it goes together like this. And then there's these kind of bits that you can put on. And then these go on the sides like that. So you get this kind of really Gothic-y kind of 28mm power generator. However, we're going to repurpose them, and we have taken these bits, and they've been turned into kind of barracks. So you can imagine your troops and stuff like that being stationed in the barracks. And then we've linked barracks, so this is the barracks for the pilots, and we've linked the barracks via these turbo shafts, I've been calling.
Yeah. If you want, I'll bring over a shuttle for a bit of a sense of scale. Hold on, I'll bring over a shuttle for some sense of scale, so you can see there'd be quite a lot of guys can get in a shuttle. So the barracks are big enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what we did was we just took the two halves, forgot about the middle bit, and put it together, and they make these most beautiful landing pads that then you can put a couple of TIE fighters onto. So the TIE fighters actually sit there. So it gave us these piloted pilot barracks, and then what you can imagine is that this is dug underground, that there's a complex underground here, and that they open up, and then two TIE fighters come off, and then they launch. Eee, so cool! Okay, the actual turbo shafts themselves, I wanted to create covered walkways to give a narrative of everything kind of linking together. The turbo shafts themselves are bits of this sprue. Now, we're very fortunate to have quite a number of these sprues, so I don't really expect you to be able to follow that bit at home, but there is other bits you could use, like plastic card or something like that. But you clip these off, and you have little legs as well. That means you can kind of suspend some of them or support some of them. Getting that?
So they're actually launch ways for. That's a
V1 flying bomb So it is from the old open fire set from Flames of War. However, the other bits made perfect walkways. So that's just a box that I'm just laying stuff out on. Okay, so here then you can see, this one you can see I have suspended to give a raised kind of walkway connecting to this building here. Now this building is actually a 28mm scale building, but it is perfect for multi-scale because we've been looking around it and there's nothing really on it that gives the scale away to any great degree. Yeah, this is from MicroArt Studio. Yep.
The only thing on it that gives the scale away is basically these two hatches. But you can just say they're big loading bays.
Yes.
So therefore you can put your shuttles on it.
Yeah. So we're going to have either 1 or 2 lambda shuttles on this. You know, as if it's taking off. I may build some kind of a platform for an ATST to be, or an At-At even, to be butted up against this. Possibly. We'll see. Right.
What do you think, Killian? Do we really need to go to the bother of having At-Ats connected to this building?
Yes!
I don't
think it's
think
probably
we
a
do.
bit much. I think they want to be out in patrol. I think they're going to be moving around the forest.
For example, this breaks this whole thing down. What happens when this turret wants to turn? Oh my god, it all fell over!
I always see these sort of kneeling down to get people inside them, like dogs, you know.
They don't kneel down.
No, they don't kneel
if
down.
if you have seen
Empire,
yeah. Okay, you can see them actually being loaded. I will find a way. And it's all about the narrative. Okay, I love whenever we're constructing something like this to get deep into the narrative, to work out how everything works. Otherwise, what is it? It's just set on bits of terrain. But what I'm trying to do is to change it from something that's just set on bits of terrain into something that is actually a working, operating Imperial base. So, anyway, the last thing then, let me just make sure it is the last thing. Yeah, the last thing for the moment that I discovered is there's a company called Critical Mass Games, okay? Run by a guy called Craig Grady. I think it's Craig Grady. Craig runs criticalmassgames.com. And he has a game called Critical Mass, which has some beautiful, beautiful kind of tanks and stuff like that in it. And I discovered among some stuff that we had these. Now, I looked at those and I thought, oh god, they're so cool. And scale-wise, they're kind of right there. We could use these in some way. And then I saw this kind of dozer blade thing at the front, and I thought, what would you need if you were building an Imperial base on Endor? You'd need bulldozers.
Yeah, to clear the trees.
Star Wars bulldozers for clearing trees. So these are giving me just another little bit of narrative that these are kind of bulldozer type things that were used for clearing the trees to actually create the base. Because any good Imperial base is never finished. No. They'll always be expanding it and they'll always be taking it out. I don't know if I'm going to bother with rules for them. They might just be a nice piece of decoration. But you can see them, they have turbo shafts linking them into the buildings. I've raised these ones slightly so as any personnel or equipment or whatever like that can get on it. And I even have a little weapon which I'm calling the Ewok Blaster that'll go onto each one, that if they're out and about, they have a little weapon that they can just fire.
Yeah, you got to kill the Ewoks before you knock down their trees.
Exactly. Yeah. We love killing us some Ewoks. Right.
They look cool, but I really don't think we will have rules because pilots and stuff are going to have so much more as it is to contend with on this table than your average game of X-Wing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. We've got to keep it simple, but that doesn't stop us adding details to the table. So we're nearly there. Right. The next step was, while we've been putting all this together, Lloyd has started the very early stages of clumping trees, so as we can start to work out paths and things like that through the actual forest itself. Whenever we come to finish this, we're going to be adding a lot more trees to really kind of block it out, so there are just some real clear visible trees.
That's what I want to talk about. Are we going to add more trees, or are we going to leave it as it is?
No, we're going to add more trees.
But if we add more trees, where do we move? You end up with very condensed channels.
Yeah, but what I mean is
fly one way.
Yeah, but by condensing the channels, we can control the game.
Don't forget as well, we can treat the trees like asteroids. So you can move straight through them to the other side, but you have to roll a red dice. You can't take any action, so you can take damage from moving through the trees.
All right, okay. So we can fly up to them, and say I actually want to get over to that side, I could curve, but I need to make sure that my curve will get me the whole way across the tree line.
Yeah.
To
You need to
represent flying over the trees and down.
Exactly. So something like a 3 maneuver would take you partially through. Something like a 5 would definitely take you across the top.
Because at the minute, I've been clumping trees up in a fashion, and you'll see the templates, I've been laying them down with the idea that we can fly in and around them, not necessarily have to fly over them. Obviously, you could still fly over them. Like, for example, the number 5 straight is going to take you from one side of a clump to another. So we should take this into account when we start to clump trees together. Then number 5 can get you across them and stuff.
However, I want to make it clear that I also don't think we should be building this that people can fly anywhere. What we should be doing is really kind of laying it on that there are 1 or 2 distinct paths. Now, the reason for that is if we can create distinct paths, what we're effectively recreating is like the trench run on the Death Star.
Yes, but I'm not convinced the trench run on the Death Star is an interesting game.
Yes. Nor am I. And that's why we'll have branches and stuff like that off. But basically, you want this to look like Endor. At the moment, it doesn't look anything like Endor. So this, we would fill all the way out. That, you'd fill all the way back to here. This, you would fill all the way back to there. You'd fill all of this out. I would probably join them. And that means that there's you start to really limit the paths that they're going to be able to take, but you have other paths where things can come in.
Jedi? What's the most iconic action scene in Return of the Jedi is the speeder chase.
Yes.
And that's all about going through the trees, zipping back and forth, but also crashing into them. Let's not forget.
Yeah, and the more we have, the more likely you are going to crash into them.
But would it not be more interesting? Here I am flying along, and because there will be TIE fighters in this.
Yeah.
Flying up behind me, and I juke in behind it, rather than the TIE fighter knowing I'm in a channel now, and I will stay in that channel so I can just keep shooting them.
Yeah, that's fine.
The only maneuver, maneuver you can pull.
But at the moment, you've so many. All I'm saying is we need to close some of these off and fill out all the trees to the edge, so it actually looks like forest, rather than a plain with a few clumps of trees. Right. It has to look like Endor.
Okay, well, going back to this flying over the trees thing, I'm not entirely comfortable with it, because I want the trees to have a very definite effect on what you do.
Well, that's one of the things we'll have to play test.
If we clump it up, that it's too wide to boost across there, but you could get across there. So you're not quite sure all the time when you're making a maneuver, will I end up in a position where I'll be able to duke across a tree or something?
And don't forget, there's an element of risk because you can always take damage from moving through obstacles like that.
Yes. So it isn't just a case of I'll just move across that and no harm done.
Your opponent rolls red dice and you take whatever damage you would have taken from moving through that. So.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So that's good in itself. That is a deterrent. Because what I want to make sure is people just don't go, I fly anywhere I want, like Warren said.
And thematically, depending on what ships we use, there will be some ships that are faster and more maneuverable. They can make that dive through.
Then maybe we have no problem at all. Oh. Because I was concerned that we put so much trees down that people would get blocked in and feel confined to the point where it wasn't fun. But they can take the risk, and risk's always fun.
Risk is always fun. So from my terrain addicted point of view, it needs to look like Endor.
Yeah.
The only way it'll ever look like Endor is if we completely fill out the trees to the edges. That's the only way. You need to be able to look at this and feel like you are in the middle of a forest in Endor, not a grove, which this looks like at the moment. So we need to pile it up.
So find the balance between aesthetics and playability.
No, always aesthetics.
Fair enough. No, playability when it comes to X-Wing.
We'll see. There will be a balance. There will be a balance. We will make it look awesome, and it will play awesome as well.
Yeah, so if you've been following along on YouTube, I think we're going to move over to exclusively putting videos on.
Yes, this is the last video that's coming onto YouTube. Website. If you want to follow along now on the rest of this, come across to beastsofwar.com. As we start to try and put the final touches of all of this together, and then we're going to start doing some play tests and things like that to see how it actually plays.
There's an annotation above us, just click it and it'll take you directly to what we call the live blogging system, and then you'll see there's additional things over there like photos, and you can comment and stuff over there as well. If you're not a member of the site, go ahead and join, and you can get in on the discussions and stuff going over there too.
Yeah.
Give us some suggestions.
That'll do. Okay guys, we'll get back to this, and we will see you over at beastsofwar.com.